Hello, everybody. What is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? I got Pino with a message retracted. Hi, Irish. How are you? Today, we are going to go over the events from Tuesday at the Robb Elementary. I want to give my thoughts. We're going to go over some videos. I am doing good. Can't complain. Been sitting here anxious, waiting for this moment to get on this camera and just talk about my feelings about what happened earlier this week. This may become a permanent thing. We'll see. I don't need the headphones anymore. I'm gonna mute the music. Take the headphones off. How's everybody's Saturday going? Hope everybody's doing good. Everybody stayed hydrated for the day. Everybody had a great day. Actually, you know, I'm gonna go live on Instagram too to give everybody a behind the scenes kind of feel. And then here in a moment, we'll get started. So today's going to be an interesting stream. I've never done something like this yet. Like I said, this is going to be the first podcast that we're going to do. And then we've got something exciting that I'm going to take with a couple of other streamers on Twitch. That's going to be live at Twitch. But that I won't get too much into. We're going to be doing a podcast over there. I'm going to try to do something here because on Wednesdays and Saturdays, I'm going to be right on YouTube, either gaming or doing this podcast or putting some kind of content up for you guys to watch. Yeah. So without further ado, let's start talking about Robb Elementary. So Tuesday, there was a shooting. And just to preface this guy's first podcast, I'm going to make mistakes today. Apologize. It'll get better as we go along. I am not going to mention the gunman's name at all during this. We're not going to see any pictures of him. I am not trying to give any credence to this dude, give any popularity. If you want to see any of that, watch anything on the internet. You can get it there. I am not going to post it here. Dude can rot in hell while he's dead. I don't really give a fuck. But Tuesday in Uvalde, Texas, gunman killed 19 children and 2 teachers, and he injured, I believe it was somewhere right around 17 other people. According to McCraw, I think his Texas Department of Public Safety Director Stephen McGraw, he reconstructed the timeline of how everything went down, and we will go over that. First, I wanted to start off with 19 children dead, 2 teachers, and 17 injured. You got parents that, for no odd reason, don't have kids anymore, or have lost a child, which is completely fucked up. So far this year, there's over 210 mass shootings, which most of them have guns that were legally acquired. So not many of them were used with illegal guns. 27 school shootings in not even the first half of 2022. Let me repeat that. 27 school shootings, and we're only in May. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Like, one who shoots up a school. Come on. These kids are doing nothing to you. They're sitting there trying to get an education, be with friends, and you're gonna shoot up a school. How fucked up is that? So the gunman posted his plans on Facebook up to 30 minutes beforehand. And how that was not caught in any way, I don't get. But here we go. Here's where we start out. 11:27 a.m. An exterior door to the school is propped open by a teacher. Why are we propping open a door at a school? First off. 11:28 a.m. Now, before this one, before 11:28, the gunman shoots his grandmother in the face. Then at 11:28, the gunman crashes his truck into a ditch near the school. The teacher runs into the room in the school to retrieve a phone, goes back to open the door. 2 males from a nearby funeral home head to the scene of the crash, but start running towards the funeral home when they see the gunman with a weapon. The gunman fires at them, but does not hit them. So he's already started shooting at this point. He's already shooting at people and driving people away. Then at 11:30, a person, apparently the teacher, calls 911 to report the crash on the armed gunman. So he crashes into a ditch, starts shooting at people. And at 11:30, oh, that sucks. Hopefully it corrects itself there, Pino. Starts shooting at people. Yeah. The gunman reaches the last row of vehicles in a school parking lot at 11:31. He begins shooting at the school. Police vehicles are responding to the funeral home. A school resource officer responds to the school from off campus, driving past the gunman, who is hunkered down behind a vehicle. The resource officer speeds towards a teacher behind the school, thinking they were a suspect. Sweet. Welcome in, Yorgley. At 11:32, so 1 minute later, multiple shots are fired at the school. 11:33, the gunman enters the school. He then begins shooting into room 111 and 112, which are connected by a doorway, though they have a shared wall. The gunman fired at least 100 rounds. 100 rounds were shot at this point. 11:35 a.m., 3 Uvalde police officers enter the school through the same door as the gunman. 2 of the officers suffered grazing wounds from the gunman, and then 3 additional officers later on, and a sheriff's deputy entered the school. So what at this point, what gets me is why were we just taking shots from this guy? Like, what's going on here? So from 11:37 to 11:44 a.m., another 16 rounds are fired. 11:51, a police sergeant and other law enforcement agents arrive at the school. So you're talking already almost 30 minutes later, and nothing's been done with this kid. 12:03, as many as 19 officers in a school hallway. A student in room 112 calls 911 for a minute and 23 seconds, whispering she's in room 112. 12:10, she calls again, saying multiple people were dead. 12:13, she calls 911 again. 12:15, Border Patrol shows up. Border Patrol arrives at school. 12:16, the student from room 112 calls 911 again, saying 8 to 9 students were alive. 12:19, another female from room 111 calls 911. The call was disconnected because another student told her to hang up. 12:21, the gunman, believed to be at one of the doors to the pair of classrooms, fires again. The group of law enforcement officers and agents moved down the hallway during a 911 call made at this time. The sound of 3 shots being fired were heard. 12:36, the first student to call 911 called again, staying on the line for 21 seconds. She told 911 that he shot the door. Then between 12:43 and 12:47, the student called 911 again, saying, please send the police now. So they don't even know the police are there. And then 12:46, the student said she could hear the police next door. So that's when they finally find out the police are there. 12:50, so you're talking an hour and 20 minutes later, the group of officers breach a locked door to the classroom using keys from a janitor. Shots are heard on a 911 call. The gunman's killed. 12:51, during a 911 call, it sounds like officers are moving children from the room. The call disconnects when it sounds like a student on the call is outside. So it took them an hour and 20 minutes to get inside the door. Now there's videos up of one of the officers, I can't remember his name, but we will watch the video, stating that they thought it was the on-scene, I can't remember, on-scene somebody thought it was no longer an active shooter, that it was somebody barricaded in a room. Boy, was that fucker wrong. This was not just an active shooter. This was somebody, or this was not a barricaded person. It was somebody shooting in a classroom with kids in there. I just don't get that. Like, how do you just think it's a barricaded person when there's active gunfire? I mean, I just read you the whole timeline of what was going on. This guy is shooting through most of it, and we think it was a barricaded person. You got kids calling you, well, calling 911, and we think it's just a barricaded person. No, obviously it's not. These kids are telling you it's not. They're telling you people are dead around them. What the fuck? So let's backtrack a little bit, back to 11:30. Well, before 11:30, the gunman posts on Facebook, I'm going to shoot my grandmother. That's his first post on Facebook. His second post on Facebook is, I shot my grandmother. Third post, I'm going to an elementary school. So you're talking, this is 30 minutes before his arrival. So 11 a.m. This is when he starts posting those. He's telling you he's going to do it before he even gets to the school. So it takes him 30 minutes to get to the school. But yet, nothing's done. No, none of his friends, no family members, nothing. I'm going to assume the grandmother probably said something to him and that's why she got shot in the face. Don't know, don't want to speculate about that. But how does he make it to the school without anything happening? First report was at 11:30 and he jumped the fence, which in videos I'm not going to show because you can clearly see him jumping the fence. You could see him clearly jumping the fence at 11:30 and go right into the school. Yeah. From what was said, police didn't enter the classroom that he was in because of gunfire coming towards them. They also waited around for backup and for, how did they get put? It was backup and for extra equipment to breach the room. You've got one shooter in the room and a bunch of kids, and you couldn't just go into the room. Come on. There was a lot of tomfoolery in this one, and a lot of stuff that Texas police are gonna have to answer for with this one. Yeah, I don't get that one. Despite 911 calls saying kids were still alive, police did not force entry into that classroom. 19 officers were on scene, and the on-scene commander believed it was no longer an active shooter. Like I said, he believed it was somebody barricaded into a room by themselves. Students were pleading for police to be sent while they were on the phone. No efforts were made to get into the classroom until backup and supplies came at 1 p.m. I've got a ton of notes on this guy. There were children in the room, and it was still an active shooter. And honestly, just from my opinion, the police failed the community, the school, those parents that lost children. They failed them all. So there was an interview with a 4th grader saying that they hid under a table with a friend the entire time. They saw teachers and classmates losing their lives. There was one teacher that jumped on top of her kids to shield them from bullets, and she lost her life. Then there was a child on the phone with 911 that the gunman came in and crouched a little bit. The gunman said, "It's time to die." The child was hiding and told a friend to be quiet because the gunman would hear them. Then a cop says, "Yell if you need help." And one girl yelled help, and the gunman came into that room and shot her. What the fuck? It's in training, and when you're in school, they tell you do not yell because somebody could be impersonating a police officer. Why a police officer would scream into a room, yell if you need help, I don't understand that. That's all on the police officer. Like, why would you do that? Okay, so this is where it comes from. In an active shooter drill in school, children are taught not to yell for help or answer anyone because it could be somebody impersonating law enforcement, or a child says help me, but the gunman doesn't know where they were hiding. And now that they yelled, the gunman can find them and kill them, which happened because a cop yelled out, "Yell if you need help." That cop was stupid. That cop, that just sickens me that a cop would actually do that. So before this incident even happened on Tuesday, well, shortly before, the gunman sent 3 private messages on Facebook that he was going to shoot his grandmother. That he had done so, and he was going to the school to shoot it up. Apparently he had messages posted to social media, but they were not visible to the public earlier than that. And then investigators had found messages the gunman posted to social media in the weeks and months leading up to the shooting. In September 2021, the gunman asked his sister to help him buy a gun, and she refused. And in an Instagram group chat, it was discussed that he was a school shooter. The gunman discussed buying a gun in an Instagram group chat with 4 people. In another 4-person chat, the gunman said, just bought something right now. Now, that's another thing. Why is an 18-year-old buying 2, not 1, but 2 AR-15s? Makes no sense. He's got 2 AR-15s. Did we not think something was coming from that, especially with the posts? Like, see, this is where the government, the people we elect and put in the House and the Senate, they need to do something more instead of sitting back afraid of the NRA and not doing anything. They're complicit in this because their inaction leads to things like this happening more and more. So in an Instagram post, the gunman says 10 more days. This is 10 days, obviously, before. Someone asked him, are you going to shoot up a school or something? Gunman replies, no, and stop asking dumb questions, you'll see. So we know this kid's unstable. He gets his hands on guns. And then he goes shoots up a school. This is why we need better gun laws. And I don't mean anything like we need to take away guns from people. No. What needs to happen is it needs to be harder to get your hands on a gun. There should be just more than a background check. You can go to a gun show, do an under-the-counter deal if somebody wants to, and get a gun same day. Or you can go buy a gun at a place and you have it in 3 days as long as nothing bad comes up on your background check. We need to have some stricter rules around it. Psychological tests, make sure your mental health is good. Find out what the reason is you're buying a gun. Self-defense, home defense. What else is it? Anything needs to be examined more. We need to make sure that people aren't just going in there and being able to just grab a gun willy-nilly. It's wrong, and yeah, it's just wrong. So Texas police, which you'll see here in a little bit, admit to making mistakes and handling of the gunman who killed 21 people. Authorities waited more than an hour, according to the new narrative they provided Friday. Timeline heightens question about police tactics and whether some of the victims could have been saved if rescuers had gotten there sooner. So, rescuers were there already. Rescuers were standing in a hallway waiting for their commanding officer to say what they were going to do. The commanding officer wanted to wait for backup and more supplies to show up. On the scene, parents were criticizing police, saying they begged officers to try to rescue the children. The law enforcement said they believed they needed more equipment and more officers to do a tactical breach. And they thought they had more time because they believed wrongly that the scene had transitioned from an active shooter situation to a barricade situation. And then Department of Public Safety Director Stephen McCraw says, of course it wasn't the right decision. It was the wrong decision, period. Yes, you had the wrong decision. That's easy to say now after the fact, when somebody could have done something different. Like, why were we waiting? You had plenty of officers on site. See, how many officers? were on site right after. Trying to find it real quick. Sorry about that, guys. So a total of 7 officers were on the scene at 11:35. That's not enough to breach a door and take down one gunman. Like at that point, you're talking he shot off 126 rounds. Obviously, you don't know how many more rounds he had or what he had stockpiled with him, but he had over 120 shots fired. And 7 officers there, and they don't try to breach anything. We're still an hour and a half at that point. That's at 11:35 when 7 officers were on scene. And there were 3 officers before the 4 showed up. So we're still an hour and a half before anybody even tries to breach the door. That's insane. And then it takes what, Border Patrol to be there. I think it was Border Patrol and some other kind of law enforcement that were there, and that's when he was taken down. So at 12:17, the Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District announces the school shooting on social media. There's an active shooter. So my thoughts on that, like, you're announcing on social media. At that point, you're 30 minutes after. Hopefully you told all your parents of children, like something went out to the parents before you posted it right on social media. It says your cooperation is needed at this time by not visiting this campus. As soon as more information is gathered, it will be shared. The rest of the district is under secure status. So we're posting on social media. What about the parents that don't have social media? So they just don't find out until they have to go pick up their kids, or until somebody texts them that does have social media. By the time the warning went out, parents were gathering at the school demanding action. There was one guy named Derek Sotelo, whose family owns a tire shop nearby, said that after hearing shots, he was outside the school with a friend whose son is a student, who was frantically trying to get police to go in or go in himself, and police were holding them back. That man was right in the officer's face, like, man, give me your vest. You're not doing nothing with it. Give me that vest. I'll go in and kill that guy. So you got a dude that's telling you, give me your vest so he can go inside and do something. You're worried that this gunman, one person, is going to shoot you because you don't have enough equipment, but you have a vest on, and you could go in there and take care of this situation. Instead, you're waiting for more backup that's not necessary. Tell me why. I am not 100% sure why that's a thing. Many parents were angry about the officers not rushing inside. Everyone was like, what's going on? What the heck's going on? Why aren't they going in? What are they waiting for? I mean, that's a valid question. Why were they waiting? That's pretty much the whole explanation of this, or the whole deal of this, is why are we waiting for action to be done? There's no reason why we should be waiting. It's ridiculous that we had to wait. All right, according to the Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, the gunman legally purchased 2 AR platform rifles on 2 separate dates this month, May 17th and May 20th. One of the rifles was left in the crashed truck. The other, a Daniel Defense brand, was found in the school with the body of the gunman. May 18th, the gunman purchased 375 rounds of 5.56 millimeter ammunition. And in total, he had 1,657 rounds of ammunition. When we sold this to him, was there no... What's up, Dragon? Thank you, thank you, thank you, Brian. When we sold this to him, was there no questioning why a 18-year-old needs 1,657 rounds of ammunition? I get that, like, anybody could buy it, you want to stockpile it if it's for home defense. Yeah, you're not using an AR-15 for home defense, for one, but nobody questions this. And then the gunman dropped a backpack with several magazines full of ammunition near the entrance of the school. He had a total of 60 magazines, including 58 at the school and 2 at his residence. So yeah, it's nothing to do with cyber gaming at all. Guys on YouTube, I am giving a behind the scenes to anybody that was watching on Instagram. Everybody on Instagram, I am on YouTube. Search to KingVic, and you'll see me on there too. I appreciate the interaction from both places. You guys love me. You guys really love me. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna play some of these videos. We're gonna go over them as I'm gonna react to them as we're watching them. I'm gonna put the headphones on, and we're gonna transition over to
the on-scene commander at the time believed that it had transitioned from an active shooter to a barricaded subject.
which was wrong. Like, if he's shooting,
Hey, we're well aware of that. Yeah.
so this guy was shooting.
Again, you know, the on-scene commander considered a barricaded subject and that there was time and there were no more children at risk. Obviously, you know, based upon the information we have, there were children in that classroom that were at risk, and it was in fact still an active shooter situation and not a barricaded subject.
All right, so Pino, yes, that's true. You can go through 200 to 300 in a pistol. I mean, you got a very valid point. So the background period, Dragon, thank you for subscribing to the channel. I appreciate you, homie. So yes, there is a background period. The background period is 3 days, as long as you don't have anything on your record, which apparently he had nothing criminal against him. There was nothing said about juvenile. There may have been something juvenile. We don't know yet. But there was nothing criminal against him on his record, which would speed up that background check. So that's where, like I said before, if you're just joining, that's where we need better additions to the background checks. You need a psychological check. You should be asking, like, there should be more to a background check than just looking at the person's background. That's not going to tell you everything you need to know about this person, because somebody could be squeaky clean, and apparently this kid was squeaky clean when it comes to his criminal past. And from the looks of it, what he was buying, what was going on was the kid was a dropout from high school and he was bullied all the time in school. So you're bullied all the time in school and you're going to go shoot up an elementary school. That makes you no better than the people that were bullying you. That makes you worse than what they were. Like, what the fuck was your problem that you had to go take it out on children? There's no reason for that. That's complete bullshit. But this, like I said before, they're saying that the on-scene commander said that they thought it was a barricaded shooter, even though they had kids calling saying the guy was actively shooting in the classrooms. The guy was actively shooting and the on-scene commander was like, oh, we think it might be a barricaded shooter. No, he was actively shooting people, or he was just actively shooting in the direction of the police that were there. This was never a barricaded shooter. This was a poor decision by the on-scene commander.
Simply this, it was a 40-minute gap. And if the 911 operators were aware that children were alive in that classroom, why weren't officers notified of that? And if that's the case, why didn't they take action? That's the question.
So if operators were not notifying police that kids in the classroom were calling them, there's another issue right there. Yes, 100%, Eric. Cowards. They're sitting here. All right, so on Instagram, somebody says, with that background now, the bullying, all that have been, people handle it differently. The shooting is sad, and the only thing we could do is throw it to his bullying. But I wonder why that school. I think he was, I think at Robb Elementary. I want to say he went to nobody really says where he dropped out of. Yeah, 100%. Kids do get brainwashed. Schools, that's another thing. So thank you for bringing that up, Eric. I don't think so. This was an elementary school, and he was in high school. Well, he was in high school before he dropped out. Because I believe there's a Robb High School in the area too. Yes. From what I was reading, Robb or Matthew McConaughey did go there. Yeah, he's definitely from there. Let's see. Yes, schools have become easier or easier targets, and honestly, to speak on that a little bit, schools need. I know there's no funding, and school boards and all that stuff, and the governments need to give schools more funding to prevent stuff like this happening. Obviously, I think the resource officer wasn't there yet on the scene. But you've got one resource officer. What are they? I mean, we couldn't, there were 7 cops by 11:30 and they weren't doing anything. What's that one resource officer going to do? He's not doing anything like that. He's going to wait until more backup comes, and then his backup waited for more backup. So that's a fucked up situation in itself. Yeah, they wanted fame for the crimes. This kid, I don't know if we'll ever really know why he totally did it. Let's see if we can, if I could pull another one up. elementary schools do need better security. All schools need better security. Yeah, we had two. I can't remember the guys' names, but I remember two. I remember junior high, we only had one. And that guy was a total dick. But schools need better security. There's things that they can be put on doors that not only all doors need to be locked. So I agree that we should have some teachers trained, but the problem with that is, especially with schools nowadays, is we don't trust the teachers to teach the students. We don't trust the teachers to discipline the students, and we don't allow the teachers to discipline the students when the students need to be disciplined. But we expect teachers to be trained to shoot somebody that's going onto the school grounds that shouldn't be there. I agree, undisclosed, yeah. But we expect them to protect them then when there's an issue right there. Because then, okay, let's say we give a teacher a gun, it's undisclosed teacher, nobody knows. What happens if that teacher loses it? And then the teacher starts shooting in the school. Then we're talking about teachers shouldn't be armed instead of teachers need to be armed. So there's some back and forth with that. I agree that there's some teachers that should be undisclosed, that should be trained, do that. But we also got to let teachers do their jobs. No, I agree. They weren't trained properly then. But that's an issue. That's something that you're going to run into too. You're going to get people that are on both sides of it. That's one of the poorest towns in Texas, no funding. I didn't know that was one of the poorest towns in Texas. But even still, like in schools around here, when I went to Bayside, your doors were unlocked when we went in there. There's even things that they have that you can put on the backside of doors so they can't even be opened until a teacher unlocks it. Like it goes right on the ground underneath the door, so that way it can't be broken into. Like, why aren't we investing in schools and some of that stuff? Or I saw something on Facebook earlier today. I can't remember who it was from, where they were saying like there was police officers stationed in their school in New York. Like on every floor there was police officers, almost like it was a police station. Like, maybe you definitely spent the night. It's okay, it's a gray line, but when you have the resource officer, then you have 3 police officers, and then 4 more show up 30 minutes after the guy starts, and they're still waiting for more backup, there's an issue. Like, we shouldn't be waiting. If there's 7 guys there, we shouldn't be waiting for more backup to come before we even breach a door. Exactly. Once there's 2 officers on scene, they need to grab their high-powered weapons and go. Yes, I completely agree. Most of the kids were hidden or trying to hide. Like, you go in there, you're gonna tell this kid, like, you're gonna be able to tell them different from an elementary school student. Like, but we waited. So 3 wasn't enough. We waited for 7. 7 wasn't enough. We waited for more. I can't remember what the tally was, but we waited for more to show up than 7. But so here's the thing, Brian. We had 7 police officers. The on-scene commander mistaken the situation as more of true. But at that point, I believe they already knew because kids were calling in, and there was a teacher that already called in saying that there was a shooter there. And there was one guy. I lost my train of thought now. Can't remember what I was saying. Oh, the on-scene commander claimed that this was... Yeah, you definitely do. And that's what parents were waiting for. Parents were waiting for these officers, begging and pleading with these officers to run in. And like I said, one person said, "Give me your vest and I'll go in and kill this guy." But you had the on-scene commander come up and say, "We're going to wait because it's a barricaded shooter. It's no longer an active shooter situation." And he was completely wrong. Like, you missed on that one so bad because you had people calling in, you had gunshots being fired. This never changed from an active shooter situation to a barricade shooter situation. That was not the case. Let's see what this guy's got to say.
Again, I'll go back to the answer for right now, is that it was considered. Okay, the decision was made on the scene. I wasn't there, but at the same point in time, a decision was made that this was a barricaded situation. There was time to retrieve the keys and wait for a tactical team with the equipment to go ahead and breach the door and take on the subject at that point. That was the decision, that was the thought process at that particular point in time.
So when they're talking about the barricaded, hold on, let me pull that up, because a barricaded shooter to me is someone that's barricaded themselves in a room, whether they have hostages or what. They're barricaded and you would need breaching equipment to get in there to take care of him. Obviously they didn't have clear line of sight. There is a video I have. I'll have to look for it real quick. Okay. Playing active shooter versus... That didn't explain it. I'm not trying to go through that. Yeah. Somebody who waits in... Yeah, that's the best explanation of it. Someone who hides and waits for those to enter. Yeah, so this guy was actively going around into the classrooms, basically looking for kids to shoot while these kids were hiding. It never became this guy was sitting waiting for people to come in. But the guy he crashed his car. Well, first he posted about this, that he was going to do it. Then he shoots his grandmother in the face for some reason. My uneducated guess would be maybe she knew about it and she was trying to stop him, but he shoots her in the face. I don't know. Not going to speculate. And then he crashes a truck, leaves one gun behind, jumps a fence, goes into the school. Then he starts shooting. Well, he's shooting as he goes up to the school. And like I said before earlier, he's shooting at 2 guys from a funeral home that were going to see if he was okay. Then shoots the school, jumps the fence, goes in and starts shooting kids. Let me see if I can find this video right here. Okay.
Crucial thing that we're going to loop back to later on.
So there's a video
began right here on campus and
where the guy, he starts firing the shots into the school
on this side of a school building. The school resource officer.
So he's shooting from classroom 102 and it goes down to room 106. So he's walking from 102 to 106. So you got 102, 103, 104, 105, and 106. There's 5 classrooms. It was a huge failure. So you got 5 classrooms that he's shooting into before he even jumps the fence to go into the room. So Columbine, they posted weeks ahead. So this kid posted about it as well weeks ahead of time. He also posted about it the day before when he bought the guns. You're talking he bought the guns on the 17th, and what, this happened on the 22nd. So both situations, they post about it beforehand. Before he even shot his grandmother, he posted that he was going to do it. Then he posted he was going to, or that he did it, and then followed up with a third post that he was headed to the school. So he's telling you his timeline. He's telling you what he's doing the day he does it. And it takes him 30 minutes to get over to the school, which, what boggles my mind is if he's posting this all on Facebook, why is nobody on Facebook calling the police? The kid actually, he had a plan.
Building. The school resource officer, they say, was not on campus at the time.
So the school resource officer isn't on campus.
The shooter out here who was crouched down. Then
the resource officer shows up. No, still no cops. All of that, Eric. Shot her, took her cash, or took her car and crashed. Shot at 2 individuals and no cops. No. So then, so he gets one person says he gets to room 103. So he's already shot at 3 classrooms. Yeah, he was at 4 stars. That is funny. He's up to classroom 103 or 104. Yeah, 104. So he's already past 3 classrooms. He's shooting into 3 classrooms, which all these kids have. All these classrooms have kids in them. He ducks down, and the resource officer does not see him because he's behind trees.
A very important point here. DPS says
then he comes around. He literally comes around the whole building. So he goes past 3 more classrooms. He comes up into a hallway and passes another 3 classrooms. Then he goes up another hallway, and then that's when he enters one of the 2 classrooms, either 111 or 112. So he goes through a back door. He goes through a back door that was propped open by a teacher.
From there, they say he went straight into.
And then that's when he goes into the classrooms. And 111 and 112 are adjoining, and they have a door in them. And that's where he kind of held up. And he started shooting everybody.
And enough ammunition for a small militia.
Hundreds of rounds were pumped in 4 minutes, okay, into those 2
So
classrooms.
4 minutes. 4 minutes, and he had 100 rounds already shot out. And he locked the doors behind him.
Because they didn't have equipment to breach them. And besides, the
police
chief, DPS says, was in charge of all of this and decided to go ahead and wait here in the hallway.
Okay, so I don't know about this school. Wow. So imagine being that teacher. If you propped your door open so you can go get your cell phone. Imagine being that teacher that did that, and then this happens. So yes, we have law enforcement. So a Facebook or an Instagram comment, just so everybody sees or hears. Our society feeds off social media and trolling. Only a few people report things on social media. We have now law enforcement that can't determine if it is real or not until it's too late. So that's true. I agree. But in these type of situations, like, you need to be looking into everything. Like, whether it's a troll or not, like, something should be looked into. It's there. It wellness check. What's going on? Like, we should be not harassing people as much as we do, or police should be not be harassing people as much as we do, and they should be checking stuff like this. If somebody calls something like that in, hey, we need to send someone out for a wellness check, see what's going on, see if there's any validity to this. I get resources are thin, but something like this should be taken more serious than what it was, especially after kids were shot.
Because he no longer thought that this was an active shooter situation.
The incident commander at the time.
That despite the fact that students were still calling.
Yeah, so many damn
from
trolls
inside this school building. DPS says at 12:03 p.m., 30 minutes after the shooting began.
So 30 minutes after the shooting began,
from room 112 and whispered that she was in that room.
the little girl calls and says that she's in that room. So what? Yeah, I agree. Eric, I don't understand that at all either. Like, he literally was shooting at two guys that came out to see if he was okay, and police aren't on the scene. Like, you've got people that were a little further away in a high school thinking it's fireworks and then it's gunshots. It's ridiculous how this stuff happens.
When he went in the classroom, he said, "You're all gonna die." He just started shooting people. He shot my teacher.
So there's a kid that I've got going on YouTube right now. He says the gunman comes in the room and says, "You're all gonna die," and then just starts shooting. Wow. That's sad that JSO is connected to the mall and it still took them 20 minutes to enter the mall. Yeah, dispatch takes way too long.
And then, I guess, like, I think
Dispatch takes way too long to get out.
And then he, like, I guess, like, one of the chairs were there, so it blocked it, and like pieces in my leg, and then like a phone started ringing in one of the desks, so a girl went to go turn it off, and then we heard shooting, and then the cops like heard the shooting, so they went at the classroom and they got him.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for.
Okay, so it looks like one kid says that somebody's cell phone in the classroom. This is when the kid was killed. The gunman was killed. I should stop saying kid. When the gunman was killed, a girl's cell phone went off. They went to turn it off. He comes in to see what that was, and then that's when they breach and kill him. Granted, it's an hour and a half later. These kids were sitting through terror for an hour and a half, watching this guy kill their friends, kill their teachers, and we did nothing for an hour and a half. Like, completely ridiculous. I've got a video up on the screen right now where kids, you hear the police. Kids are all around the classroom. They're not really hiding. These look like probably like 5th graders, maybe a little bit older. No, can't go out in peace. Like, that's literally why a lot of people just shoot on or buy stuff on Amazon, like, because you can't trust it anymore. All right, man. I appreciate you stopping by. All right, so the video I'm watching right now and that YouTube's watching with me are all these kids that just jumped out of a classroom window. Not gonna go over that one. So over here, good chat. Yeah, definitely, Eric. I will catch you later.
I'm not going to talk about basketball. Nothing's happened with our team.
Right now we're watching a Steve Kerr interview.
We're going to start the same way tonight. Any basketball questions don't matter. Since we left,
So Steve Kerr gets really emotional with this.
400 miles from here, and a teacher. And in the last 10 days, we've had elderly black people killed in a supermarket in Buffalo. We've had Asian churchgoers killed in Southern California, and now we have children murdered at school. When are we going to do something? I'm tired. I'm so tired of getting up here and offering condolences to the devastated families that are out there. I'm so tired of the, excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm tired of the moments of silence. Enough. There's 50 senators right now who refuse to vote on H.R. 8, which is a background check rule that the House passed a couple of years ago. It's been sitting there for 2 years. And there's a reason they won't vote on it, to hold on to power. So I ask you, Mitch McConnell, I ask all of you senators who refuse to do anything about the violence and school shootings and supermarket shootings, I ask you, are you going to put your own desire for power ahead of the lives of our children and our elderly and our churchgoers? Because that's what it looks like. It's what we do every week. So I'm fed up. I've had enough. We're going to play the game tonight, but I want every person here, every person listening to this, to think about your own child or grandchild or mother or father or sister, brother. How would you feel if this happened to you today? We can't get numb to this. We can't sit here and just read about it and go, well, let's have a moment of silence. Yeah, go Dubs, you know. Come on, Mavs, let's go. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go play a basketball game. And 50 senators in Washington are going to hold us hostage. Do you realize that 90% of Americans, regardless of political party, want background check, universal background check? 90% of us, we are being held hostage by 50 senators in Washington who refuse to even put it to a vote, despite what we, the American people, want. They won't vote on it because they want to hold on to their own power. It's pathetic. I've had enough.
So I like what he said right there. I definitely like what he said. He talks about, what up, Panda? Panda. What he says and what he talks about is there's 50 senators right now that won't vote on universal background checks, which is what a lot of countries have, but they won't vote on it because they don't want to lose their power. Think about that. They don't have the best interest in for the company, or for the company, for boop. We're gonna rewind. They don't have what's in best interest for the country. They have what's best interest for their wallet. 90% of Americans want universal background checks, which would help with this type of situation. So our elected officials in the Senate would rather schools be shot up than to lose their power. How fucked up is that? They'd rather kids die because they know, let's let this cool down and it's not going to be an issue anymore until the next one happens. For the last 10 years, there have been bills put on the table to address this type of thing. But Republicans don't want to lose the power. This situation is not about Republican or Democrat anymore. No, it has not. The Constitution has not changed. It was written for what was best who were in power. Money is the issue. Yeah, money is the issue. Most of these Republicans are tied to the NRA in some way. They don't want to lose that funding from the NRA because that's what keeps them in office. They lose that funding, they lose that money, there goes their breadwinner. Like, so with a universal background check, they would have done something for mental health, I believe. Let me pull that up real quick, because I can't remember all what was in a universal background check. All right. That's not going to give me anything. Yeah, it's 100%. You've got senators, you've got House representatives that have been there for 40, 50 years. Like, these old heads should not be lawmakers anymore because we're progressing as a country. Technology's progressing, weapons are progressing, but yet our senators and House representatives are in the past. We've gone way past them as a country. We've gone way past them, but they still think in the old way. They still want to hold their power. Yeah. So a universal background check. It's extensive background screening. It's web-based technology that includes easy to use, secure online solutions. So basically, it's looking at your background. You're looking at psychological tests. You're looking at, they're going to look at like all your postings and all that stuff. So they're looking deeper into you to see what's going on before anything. I agree. We need to change election backgrounds too. Yes. So stores like pawn shops, gun stores, and retailers such as Walmart are required by law to run background checks before selling a firearm. That often involves the FBI's National Instant Criminal Background Check System, which handles all background checks for 29 states. Other states use their own background check system or a combination of the two. usually relying on the FBI for rifles and shotguns while running handgun purchases through the state system. So a background check is cool and all, but a background check does nothing when you have no criminal history. So a universal background check would require most private purchases to run through the same background check process required for licensed dealers. Private transaction at gun shows or through websites like the Arms List would still be possible, but more complicated. Citizens could still buy and sell guns, but they would likely have to transfer the weapon to a licensed dealer to run a background check before completing the transaction. Most universal background check proposals include exemptions for transferring guns between family members and for borrowing guns. What's the requirements for a universal background check? Yeah, old ways of knowledge. They need to stop thinking about old ways of trying to find something. Nothing really says what it is. I know they do. It's a more extensive check. It looks at more in terms of a psychological test. It looks at all of your postings. Like they do. Okay, how do background? Now. Oh wow, I didn't know this. 1.8 million applications were denied. Seeing all this guy's guns. All this guy's guns were purchased legally. He did not have an illegal gun. And most of the shootings don't have, or they don't have a criminal past, and they've been legally purchased weapons. Actually, you know what would be a good thing? Let's there is something I'm gonna look at. So back in 2010, I want to say it was, Australia had a mass shooting, which then they changed their gun control laws. Trying to see what they were changed to, but I know ever since they changed their gun control laws, they haven't had a mass shooting since. I'm just trying to find that. Sorry about that, guys. Nope. Okay, so first, the states issue firearm licenses for legal reasons, such as hunting, sport shooting, pest control, collecting. For farmers, farm workers, licenses have to be renewed every 3 to 5 years, and license holders must be 18 years or older. There are some licenses for children that they can get. But literally you have to have, from the looks of it, you have to have a reason. And they've banned certain guns. So I know, so like rim rifles, shotguns. So there's different levels of control. Category A has a level of control, which is for rimfire rifles, shotguns. Category B is center fire rifles, including bolt action, pump action, and lever action, muzzle loading made after 1901, and lever action shotguns. Pump action shotguns. Well, C is pump action shotguns. So they have different levels of what requirements would be needed to purchase those guns. And as you go to the different categories, the screening is a lot harder to pass. Junior licenses are available in Victoria and New South Wales for anyone 12 years old. Licenses are prohibited for convicted offenders and those with a history of mental illness. So that right there. Prohibited for convicted offenders. I don't think a convicted offender can buy a gun here. So I agree with that, Pino. There's no talk about that. And there definitely needs to be talk about that. But the problem with that is him being bullied is not a reason to shoot up an elementary school. Not a reason to shoot up any school at all. So convicted offenders and those with a history of mental illness. So I don't know if this kid had a mental illness or anything leading up to this. He obviously wasn't right in the mind. And if a check of that, like a psychological check of that would have happened, the bullying part of it probably would have came out, and more than likely he probably would have got denied. So in May 2018, Victoria introduced firearm prohibition orders to reduce firearm related crime by targeting those who want to possess, use, or carry firearms for unlawful purposes. Persons served with an order must immediately surrender a firearm and their firearms license carried or canceled. Persons or companies conducting a business involving the buying, selling, or trading of firearms or ammunitions must obtain a firearm dealer's license, and firearm repairers must hold a firearms repair license that must be renewed annually. So there's more to getting a gun over in Australia. It's not as easy to get a gun over there, which I think needs to happen here. Whether that does happen or not, who knows? With the way these senators and just everybody, the way everybody is up in politics, like they're never going to give up control. Yeah, they're just never going to give up control. So that's where like things need to change. Like there needs to be a limit to how long anybody in the House of Representatives or in the Senate, there needs to be a limit on how long they can stay. Yeah, the people in the office, but I mean, it just needs to happen. Like we've got too much of these senators and everything after the fact saying something needs to be done. There's too much of that going on. There's too much of all of these senators and all of these anybody politician wise coming out after the fact with the condolences. Like instead of sitting here and telling us, our condolences go out to the family. Do something. Show us that you're going to do something. Stop just coming out and saying our condolences are with the family, our thoughts are with the family. Like, no. If that's the case, do something about it. Let me see if I can. Who was it that did it? Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel said something. I think this is it.
An audience for.
Here we go.
Hi, it's Jimmy. And
Okay, so we could push bills, but when the people vote, we have people that won't allow it. Bills are voted on by the people and then represented by politicians that will push their House votes. So, yes and no. Democrats have, from what I've been reading throughout this whole thing, because I did a bunch of research on this, from what I've been reading, Democrats have a bill, a gun law bill in place, but Republicans won't even sit at the table to look at it. So, yes, the people have some say in some things on bills, but it passes through the House of Representatives. When it gets to the Senate, it gets its votes that it needs from the Democrats, but then it gets stopped by the Republicans. And the Republicans won't sit down and come together to come up with a bill that both sides like. So that's my understanding of all the research I've been doing before coming on here. Granted, it was only 3 days of research, but when I was looking through it, everything I read had the same thing, where it gets through the House, gets to the Senate, that's where it falls apart.
And I wanted to speak to you directly without an audience.
So we're going to listen to Jimmy Kimmel real quick
show, because here we are
here on YouTube.
On another day of mourning in this country. Once again, we grieve for the little boys and girls whose lives have been ended and whose families have been destroyed, while our leaders on the right, the Americans at Congress and at Fox News and these other outlets, warn us not to politicize this. They immediately criticize our president for even speaking about doing something to stop it, because they don't want to speak about it, because they know what they've done and they know what they haven't done, and they know that it's indefensible. So they'd rather sweep this under the rug. And, most Americans support keeping guns out of the hands of criminals and children. The majority of us do, Democrats and Republicans. And the reason they call them common sense gun laws is because that's what they are. Common sense. 89% of Americans want background checks before a gun can be purchased, which is just the very least we can do. A bipartisan bill passed in the House. It's been stalled in the Senate for over a year now. They won't pass it because our cowardly leaders just aren't listening to us. They're listening to the NRA. They're listening to those people who write them checks, who keep them in power, because that's the way politics work. That's the idea we settle on. So we tell ourselves, but it doesn't have to be that way. Not for this. You can tell things are out of whack when the coach of the Golden State Warriors shows more leadership and passion than almost every Republican in Congress. And I say this tonight with the hope, not with an expectation, but with the hope that people like Ted Cruz and Greg Abbott and John Cornyn, people who were elected by Texans, will actually listen to it. Instead of going right to gun control laws don't work and we need armed teachers and guards at schools, If your solution to children being massacred is armed guards, you haven't been paying attention to what's going on. There was an armed guard in Buffalo. There was an armed guard in Parkland. There was an armed guard in Uvalde. They had armed guards. There were police officers armed on the scene. And these murders still happen. And gun control laws do work, by the way. We know this. 26 years ago, Scotland had a school shooting that killed 16 kids and a teacher, and the government responded by enacting gun control legislation. And there hasn't been a school shooting in Scotland since then. In 1996 in Australia, a mass shooting killed 35 people. They passed gun legislation. They haven't had one since. This is the only country where this keeps happening. Firearms are now the #1 cause of death for American children and teens. #1. Senator Ted Cruz, I will say, is stepping up to comfort the people he serves, is the NRA. Ted is scheduled to speak at an NRA event this weekend. And here's the thing. I don't believe Ted Cruz doesn't care about children. I don't. I refuse to believe he's unaffected by this. He's a father. I bet he went to bed sick to his stomach last night. It's easy to call someone a monster, but he's not a monster. He's a human being. And some people might not like hearing me say that, but it's true. So here's the thing I would like to say to Ted Cruz, the human being, and Governor Abbott, and everyone. It's okay to admit you made a mistake. In fact, it's not just okay, it's necessary to admit you made a mistake when you're mistaken.
So here's the thing. So I watched a video of Ted Cruz the other day. Yesterday, actually. It was a reporter. The reporter sounded like they were from overseas. They sounded like they had an English accent, and they were in Texas. And I think it was right after this NRA meeting that Jimmy Kimmel was talking about. He asked him about gun control laws and why aren't we implementing more gun control laws, and why isn't the House, or why isn't the Democrats and the Republicans coming together to pass a bill? At that moment, the interview was probably like 2 minutes long, and the interviewer kept asking questions. At that moment, when he asked that question, Ted Cruz tried walking away. Then both that reporter and somebody that was with him asked the question again, and he still kept trying to leave. Like, he did not want to answer the hard question of, why aren't you working with Democrats to fix this situation? Basically, why are you allowing this to happen?
Mistake is killing the children in your state.
This is true.
It takes a big
They are
person
killing
to do
the
something
children
like
in
that.
his
It
state.
takes a brave person to do something like that. And do I think these men are brave people? No, I don't. But man, I would love it if they surprised me. I would love it if
he's
any
true.
of these guys surprised me. I don't know. This is not a time for moments of silence. This is a time to be loud.
100%.
Stay loud and not stop until we fix this. Some people say this is a mental health problem. Others say it's a gun problem. It is both, and it can be.
Agreed. 100%.
Let's work on both of those. There have been 27 school shootings so far this year in this country, and it's May.
Nope. Just the House and the Senate. There is.
How does this make sense?
There is something else. I can't
These are
remember
our children,
if.
and our representatives are supposed to represent us.
So if, when it comes to bills, if there's 2 bills that are placed and the House, if the House passes them, or if they can't agree and the House sends them over to the Senate and then they can't agree, there's a part of Congress that convenes to pass one of the bills to get sent to the president. That's if there's a stalemate. But most times what happens is you'll get them up to the very last minute before one of the 2 places has to disperse, and they come to an agreement on one bill. But yeah, if the House passes it, Senate passes it, it goes right to the president.
We want limits on who can walk around with an AR-15, and it damn well shouldn't be a teenager who works at a fast food restaurant.
So Jimmy Kimmel is right there.
That, forget it.
Jimmy Kimmel is right. There should be no reason why an 18-year-old that works at a fast food restaurant has an AR-15. Now, I understand the thought of, yeah, there's a compromise stage. I understand the thought of anybody should be able to buy whatever gun they want. But why does an 18-year-old need a AR-15?
This is not their fault anymore. This is now our fault because we get angry, we demand action, we don't get it, they wait it out, we go back to the lives that we should rightfully be able to go
This
back
is what I was talking about earlier.
But you know who doesn't forget it?
Jimmy Kimmel says that we get loud for moments and then nothing happens, and then we quiet down. And meanwhile, Congress is just waiting for us to calm down so they can just go back on with their day. They wait, instead of doing anything, they wait it out because they don't want to do anything.
The parents of the children.
Yeah, then after we stop being loud and we get quiet again, it's only the parents that don't forget what happened.
We all do.
And then we're reminded
What party we vote for, we all.
we're reminded the next time it happens again, and then the same cycle happens. Sandy Hook happened, everybody was loud talking about gun control laws. Then after a few weeks it just died down and nothing was ever done about it. You're going to hear a lot of people talking about it, and hopefully a lot of people just continue to talk about it and don't quiet down from this. Voices need to be heard, something needs to change, and I'm hoping that's where this goes with this. On one of my next streams, or actually multiple of my next streams, I'm going to be setting up a campaign for, on YouTube it's going to be easy because I could just share the one that's on here, but my next YouTube one is going to be, I'm going to try to figure out how to do it, but every town for gun safety support fund, I'm going to put a donate link on that, so that would be Wednesday, and then next Saturday we'll have that one, and then I'm going to look for one for Twitch. If I can get the same exact one for Twitch, Twitch I'll be on tomorrow and then Friday. We'll have those two going. It looks like Jimmy Kimmel actually organized this fund, so like I said, if I could share this and put it on my stream, I'm going to. Brian says, from Instagram, bills take years to even get brought up again. The compromise stage, if not met, the bill is set on the back burner. Okay.
All care about this. We need to make sure that we do everything we can to make sure that unless they do something drastic, that let's make sure that not one of any of these politicians ever holds office again.
The first law he signed is what was being called the Constitutional Carry Bill, which gets rid of the licensing and training requirement for Texans.
I'm signing 7 laws that protect Second Amendment rights in the Lone Star State.
So recently the governor of Texas signed 7 laws that protect everybody's Second Amendment rights. So he did the complete opposite of what needs to be done about gun control. I agree, Brian. He literally signed stuff so that way people don't have any consequence. No, nothing changes. That's
breaking news.
like, how does that happen?
Unspeakable tragedy. At least 18 children.
How does that happen? Like, how do we sign bills for archaic laws, like, or for archaic things in the Constitution? Like, sure, when our Constitution was made, there's stuff in there right now that we're fine for back then. We're fine for 1776. They don't translate to nowadays. Yeah. We are doomed. So, great comment. We are doomed to repeat history is the lesson learned. We really don't have the right people pushing hard enough at the federal level. 100%. If you don't learn from history, yeah, it needs to be federal. If we don't learn from history, you're bound to just repeat it. So 27 school shootings this year. And the thing is too, like, this is why I hate that the media puts out the gunman's name and face. I hate that, and that's why I haven't done it here. But I hate that the media puts out the gunman's name and the gunman's face. Because when that happens, people are like, wow, that could be my 15 minutes of fame. Fucked up. But people that are assholes think like that. So we had Columbine. Those kids were all over the media. And what was it? It was Marilyn Manson that was blamed for that one. I want to say it was Marilyn Manson that was blamed for that one. But you had Columbine. There's what? Virginia Tech. Yeah, there's Virginia Tech, there's Columbine, you had Sandy Hook. Trying to find something for this. You had Santa Fe High School where 10 people were killed. Stoneman Douglas. The Rancho Tehama Elementary School in 2017. You had Umpqua Community College in Roseburg, Oregon. 10 people are dead in 2014. There was a community college near the University of California, Santa Barbara campus. 2012, you had Sandy Hook. Another one in 2012, Oikos University in Oakland, California. 2007 was Virginia Tech. 2006 was West Nickel Mine School. 2005 Red Lake Senior High School, and 1999 was Columbine. And those kids committed suicide with that one. All right, man. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for watching. You had all of those, and we haven't learned from any of them. I'll talk to you later. We haven't learned from any of them. History just keeps repeating itself, and we don't learn from what happens. That's the moral of this. We need to do better. Government needs to do better. Congress needs to do better. Our police need to do better. We need better gun control laws in this type of situation. We need to learn from history. Because if we don't, it's just going to keep repeating itself. And that's what continuously happens. continuously happens to repeat itself. Something needs to change. Something needs to change. And we all need to do better. That's what needs to happen. All right. Well, guys, that is going to be it for me tonight. I appreciate everybody for stopping by. Go ahead and drop that like button, hit that thumbs up. If you like it, hit that thumbs down. If you don't like it, totally up to you. I'm going to list this a little bit later. Probably going to cut it up, make it into shorts. I'll probably cut it up, throw it on TikTok, on Instagram, all my social medias. Irish, thank you for moderating for me. I appreciate you. If you go to its link tr.ee/2KingVic, that's for all my social medias. Go ahead and follow me. Subscribe on here. And we'll see. I will be back on Wednesday. We are going to be doing some YouTube gaming. Thank you for stopping by for the KingVic show, and you guys have a good night.